Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm WeiryWriter on the forum.
And I'm also joined with Matt.
Hi, I'm Comatose.
And I'm Chaos on the forums, so you feel free to say hi to us anywhere. Happy New Year and happy holidays, because we're in 2018. Oathbringer is so last year. Just kidding. We're going to talk a lot more about Oathbringer. And today, we're going to talk about Dalinar's visit to the valley and the old magic, which we get to see on screen in Oathbringer. And so, obviously, there are massive Oathbringer spoilers here. So, you should go read that book if you haven't for this podcast. So,
it might help.
Great. Yeah, so
the biggest spoilers potentially.
Yeah, so if you go finish that book, if you read part 5, just started part 5, you should just finish that, and then come back. So now that we're in the spoiler zone, we're gonna talk about the Nightwatcher, and not only Nightwatcher, but also cultivation, because not only does Dalinar meet the Nightwatcher, as we expected we would see this in Dalinar's book, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it had confirmed that.
Yeah. I mean, we would have been upset if we did not see that.
Exactly.
But Dalinar also frickin' meets cultivation, one of the 16 shards of Aiden Alcium, and one of the 3 on Roshar.
Yeah, not only do we see Odium just showing up, cultivation just shows up as well.
Yeah, just, let's just have all the shards here right now.
So now Dalinar's talked to all 3 shards if you count Honor via the visions.
I mean, that's the best you're going to get to talk to Honor anyway, so that seems fine.
Unless he reassembles the shard and starts talking to himself.
Dalinar can have many internal monologues. That doesn't count, though. He's not talking to Tanavast, which is the vessel of Honor.
He ascends and creates an avatar of himself and talks as that.
Oh God.
Many things.
God, see, get it? Because Honor ascending. Anyway. So, I thought we'd start by going over what happened, because we get a long flashback sequence of Dalinar brutally killing his wife on accident, but it's very bad, basically.
Yes.
And then he drinks a lot, and eventually, then Gavilar dies, so that's a bummer. And he eventually decides to go visit the old magic and the Nightwatcher to get forgiveness. So he does that, and that's the very last flashback we see, which is right before Dalinar is shipping over to the Shattered Plains. So I thought we'd just talk about that, and it's the first chapter of part 5, and then we get the final battle. So the first thing that's cool about this is Felt.
Has a little cameo.
Yep.
I mean, it's a lot more than Words of Radiance. Felt was mentioned in Words of Radiance, and also mentioned in Mistborn. Oh.
Yeah, he's one of Venture's house spies, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think he shows up in book 1 of Mistborn, and possibly, I think it's book 2 or 3 as well. So he's there.
Does he?
Maybe he doesn't. Anyway.
I don't think he does, actually, because that would have been mentioned on the Coppermind.
Yeah,
but let's find out. 1 second. Nope. You're right. You're totally right. Is mentioned in Wall of Ascension.
Yeah, because he goes to work for Elend.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Coppermind's pretty good sometimes. Amusingly, guys, when Words of Radiance came out, we had 2 separate Felt articles because we thought there's no way these are the same person. Turns out they are the same person. And so we kind of noticed it through the Coppermind, and then someone asked Brandon about it, and they are the same person. And it's very clear in this that Felt is a world hopper.
Oh,
yes.
Oathbringer. Super clear. Words of Radiance, that's not obvious at all.
Yeah.
what does he say? He says that he's
that the
a bit
Nightwatcher
more foreign.
Yeah. The
She
Nightwatcher doesn't like
foreigners.
foreigners.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar says he might have trouble too, and then Felt says that Dalinar's a little less foreign than he is.
Yeah. So that's cute. We did hear in Secret History that there's an economy, or there was an economy through Scadrial, through the pits, and so maybe
Mercantile
Felt
Enterprise.
Yeah, maybe Felt went through that. I mean,
although he was on Scadrial after the pits.
Yeah, after the pits. So it must have been post Catasender.
But it's still possible to get on and off Scadrial after that, because we see Chris in Bands of Mourning.
Well, she was already in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
No, in Bands of Mourning, you see her.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Right. Well, yeah, but the perpendicularities are surely different.
Yeah.
After all that.
After Sazed ascends.
Yeah. So we got Felt. But that's not super important. But I thought I'd mention that in case you guys missed that means that Felt is a world hopper. So we saw that on screen.
I'd be really curious to see if we could get a word of Brandon sometime about what Felt asked for. Or would have asked for had
what he would have
the Nightwatcher actually shown up for him.
It is interesting that the Nightwatcher wouldn't talk to someone who's from another planet, though.
Mm-hmm. It probably has something to do with how the investiture is keyed to their connection or something.
I didn't take it as like she doesn't appear. It's just that she's much less likely to. Because she doesn't appear to every Rosharan that goes.
That's true. You're totally right. This is just like, oh, okay. So this maybe not some deep magical thing.
Yeah.
But then we just see the Nightwatcher. So why don't you lead us off, Ian, with
creepy eldritch monster thing?
It's we get a lot of creepy monsters, weird stuff.
Yeah.
In this book.
So the Nightwatcher seeped from the darkness. She was a dark green mist, vaguely shaped like a crawling person. 2 long arms reached out, pulling her along as she floated above the ground. Her essence, like a tail, extended far behind her, weaving among tree trunks and disappearing into the forest. Indistinct and vaporous, she flowed like a river or an eel, and the only part of her with any specific detail was her smooth, feminine face. She glided toward him until her nose was mere inches from his own, her silken black eyes meeting his. Tiny hands sprouted from the misty sides of her head. They reached out, taking his face and touching it with 1,000 cold, yet gentle caresses.
Do
you know what that reminds me of?
What does that remind you of?
Mistspren. Because they're made of mist, and then they have the porcelain faces.
It was reminding me of the Mist Spirit from the Mistborn trilogy. It's nice to see that connection of kind of shadows that are connected to the shards representing in mist-like form, even though it's obviously different on Roshar than it is on...
Yeah, and we also see, like, the Thrill is a red mist, you know? And so this is a dark green mist. Again, kind of some relationship with color in shards, I guess. But I mean, the Nightwatcher isn't a shard. But...
Yeah. Though that is a good point. Because we've seen multiple forms of solid physical investiture, like the god metals and shard blades.
Yeah.
Liquid investiture, which is the
perpendicularities.
The shard pools, perpendicularities. And the gaseous investiture.
Yeah. I seem to remember someone asked what that term is called. Like all these mists and stuff. Because apparently Stormlight is a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, Stormlight is gaseous.
Yeah. but I don't think we have an official word on what all of that stuff is called.
If I'm remembering the word of Brandon you're referring to, Brandon didn't either. At least he didn't at that point.
Well, I mean, we didn't have the word vessel for many years.
So, vessel was amazing.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
And if I recall correctly, Cultivation's shard pool or perpendicularity is described as green or emerald, right?
Is it?
Yes, I do believe so. That
when Rock describes it?
When someone describes it. I don't know if it was Rock, but...
Rock described it because Hoyd came through it in the Horde Eater Peaks. So okay, let's back it up for some people who aren't all on the same page. So every shard, that power creates kind of a hole through the 3 realms, and those are perpendicularities. We've seen
basically
these pools
their
before.
Power tends to collect in one place. And that much investiture in one place kind of breaks things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that lets you get between the realms, although I guess you can cheat, like Dalinar, but, But we've seen
I wouldn't say that's cheating. That was literally summoning a perpendicularity.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it
is cheating.
Else calling is cheating. But we've seen these on various planets, like with the well, the pool in Elantris,
and those are all different colors. Like, so blue pool. We have the blue pool in Elantris, white and black for preservation and ruin.
Yep.
And then we have green now with cultivation, and I'm assuming odium is likely red, just because.
Yeah, but then maybe like autonomy would be red.
I'd go more like yellow for him, because red is corrupted investiture.
Right. So yeah.
Oh, black also is too sometimes with Nightblood. It's not. So I don't know if these colors are always.
Okay, red is corrupted as in mixing investitures. We don't know what's going on with the black mist coming out of Nightblood.
Yeah,
but we had that one quote that said that the black one was a result of mixing investitures too, right?
No, Brandon just was like, "Oh, that's the natural question," and then he didn't answer that question.
Okay, well, so there is an implication though there.
Yes, but red is explicitly shard investiture mixing and interfering with each other. Like, that is word of Brandon.
What?
Explicit.
What?
Yes.
No, I'm just thinking about like the thrill,
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on with the thrill, but
because it's a red mist that is presumably all of odium,
or like any of the stuff that happened in bands.
We do have a word of Brandon on this, so it's
great.
From the Oathbringer London signing, asked by RJL, if red investiture equals co-opted by another shard, what about the thrill? Brandon's answer, kind of, which is...
Oh, great. Thanks, Brandon. Brilliant.
Super helpful there.
Like when we're doing color schemes and stuff, the answer could just be, more than one thing can be red or black.
Yeah, I mean...
Or whatever, right?
Brandon has said that it's...
Yeah.
Not necessarily every shard has a color, because Ruin and Preservation were black and white because of their polarized nature. Like, they were the only ones on the planet, so it just worked out that way.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I feel like we need to do a whole podcast on that one scene in Bands where, Wax sees all the red mist attacking and stuff. Spoilers. Didn't expect that here. Well, great. That was a long discussion on a color.
Yeah.
So let's
actually, I have one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Going back to my mist spread.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Because we know that different spread are born by their parents going to a place and getting investiture, and it becomes a spread. And it's like originally Honor made the honor spread, but now the Stormfather made some honor spread, and now the honor spread make themselves. I think maybe that the Nightwatcher is the one that made the misspren. She made them in her own image, sort of.
Oh, and like cultivation spren are just made by cultivation, maybe?
Yeah.
Or were once made by cultivation.
Yeah.
And now make themselves.
True.
Yeah,
I guess you wouldn't have the problem with, Honor dying and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, sure. Why not? That does seem sensible. Then the Nightwatcher is asking this. What is it you wish of me? The Nightwatcher asked. What boon drives you, son of honor, son of odium? That part's very interesting, that the Nightwatcher just recognizes Dalinar being between honor and odium there,
Mm-hmm. Or is it that he's a human who...
Oh, yeah. Humans are kind of stretched between those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, she's not entirely sure which side he is, which one is he really of.
And
that is really interesting.
It's also like, the Nightwatcher is a very fey being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So it's
sure.
like the wordplay and the asking questions.
Yeah.
Just fits.
And it's interesting the way it's structured is you can't tell if she's using son of honor, son of odium as statements because she's asking the question, what is the boon that drives you? What boon drives you? Do you want to be of honor? Do you want to be of odium? Is that kind of what you're saying? Or are all three questions, what boon drives you? Son of honor? Son of odium? Like, is she asking herself, like, trying to figure it out? Or is she saying he's of both and asking him by different names? It's the punctuation is ambiguous because we have so many questions in a row.
Well, punctuation matters, kids. Always use your Oxford comma.
Yes. Saves lives.
It does. I get irrationally angry by people not using the Oxford comma. Anyway, then the Nightwatcher says, what would you like? Renown? Wealth? Skill? Would you like to be able to swing a sword and never tire? No, Dalinar whispered. I don't know what Dalinar voice that was. Beauty? Followers? I can feed your dreams, make you glorious. That's so creepy.
Yeah, and it's interesting, with this, what we know of cultivation, this concept of kind of feeding one's dreams, I think is really interesting in that context. Like feeding something, helping it, making dreams grow into reality kind of thing. Although she does it by cultivating in that she always grants a curse and takes something away as well. It's interesting.
I think the make you glorious part is interesting for two reasons. Mm-hmm. One, in Vorinism, everybody has a glory to which they aspire.
Yeah, that's true.
And also when Dalinar does end up confronting Odium at the end, he summons a swarm of glory spren.
Mm-hmm.
So he did become glorious in that moment.
Well, I mean, lots of spren are probably a mix of honor and cultivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think she actually did anything. I just think it's a nice callback.
Mm-hmm.
That may or not actually be something there.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Vorinism having a glory is kind of interesting there. That could mean a lot of things. As we'll see as we talk about cultivation. Cultivation surely must have been pervasive in everything, kind of like odium. So it could be like a cultivation-y thing. Like you have your calling, then you have your glory. That's what it is.
Well, it's like right? I'm not saying that there's an actual correct connection. Like cultivation was involved with Vorinus. I'm just saying this is amusing
on a meta level.
On a meta level.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting. It could be. I don't know.
It's also interesting the things she offers, and I think we'll get a little more into some other things. But she's offering beauty, wealth, skill, the ability to never get tired when swinging a sword, followers. Like, these are very diverse boons, and because we haven't had a lot of boons shown to us yet, we have only a couple individuals having this kind of list.
Yeah, and they're all super weird boons.
Yeah. So, like, what would the Nightwatcher giving someone followers look like? Is that giving him the ability to attract followers? Is she making people out of thin air who follow him around?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting. Like, wealth, you assume she could... Again, is she giving the ability to obtain these things? Or is she actually handing over sacks of gold or making him instantly famous? Like, it's...
Well, Matt, why don't you just read the next line?
Yeah.
Because that's...
I do have one thing.
Okay.
Because in the Baxel interlude in Way of Kings, it's mentioned
they talk about that.
Yeah, the guy he's with, his father went to the Nightwatcher.
Yep.
And his boon was like 2 bolts of cloth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what did he ask for? Because selling those 2 bolts of cloth were enough to prevent his family from starving.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So yeah, she could just give something.
The Nightwatcher can be creative.
So
the next line is, she says, is perhaps it is possessions you wish. Spheres, gemstones, shards, a blade that bleeds darkness and cannot be defeated. I can give it to you.
Okay, so this is the craziest Nightwatcher line by far. What?
It does seem that she is talking about Nightblood.
I mean, we only have one example of a blade that bleeds darkness, and Brandon has said that Nightblood is a ridiculous waste of investiture, so it's probably that one.
And when the reference to cannot be defeated, we have not seen Nightblood be overcome.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yet, when Nightblood has been drawn. So.
Oh, now you just gave me like an idea of like something even what could be more terrifying than Nightblood? Something that can defeat Nightblood. Oh,
yeah.
God. Well, that probably would cost so much investiture because Nightblood vaporizes people that it touches rather than just like killing them like shard blades do. It's way more powerful.
And I guess the other question to ask is, the Nightwatcher promising Nightblood specifically, or is she implying that she has the ability to create something that does the same thing as Nightblood?
I guess that's true.
Through her power.
That is true.
Like, I kind of took it when I read it as she could give Dalinar Nightblood, like we know Nightblood's on
That's
Roshar.
what I thought too.
But it could be, like, through the Nightwatcher has access to a lot of power, so it could hypothetically be that she could create, that she's become aware of Nightblood and can now create a copy or something similar.
Yeah, but the Nightwatcher is also referencing, hey, do you want shards?
Yeah.
These totally priceless things.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really gonna just create some new shards for Dalinar? Is that a thing the Nightwatcher can do?
Or can she summon them? Yeah, steal some and summon them.
Well, how many shards are there out there unclaimed that no one knows about?
Well, that is a very good question, because as, if you remember, guys, from the very first Recreance vision, there were like 200 Radiants that gave up their oaths, and Dalinar said that was more than all the shards in the world.
All the recorded shards.
All the recorded shards. So there's a ton of missing ones, especially because that's only one segment of one order.
So does Nightwatcher just... Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's a podcast in and of itself, but
So does Nightwatcher just have a horde of good artifacts like shards and spheres
like
and
a dragon?
gemstones?
She just has she's a dragon where she just has all this stuff.
I'm picturing the house of the Skyrim character who has all these unique items.
Yeah,
sitting in a chest somewhere, or can she summon them from wherever they are in the world and give them to the even after having the scene, we don't know much about the Nightwatcher's capabilities.
Well,
but we do get some.
So obviously she can grant weird things, so she certainly has magical abilities, obviously.
Yeah, she can probably rewrite a person's spirit web.
Sure.
To do stuff.
Right. That seems sensible.
But there are things she cannot do as well, which maybe we'll get to in a bit, but
yeah, with namely the things that Dalinar wants.
Yeah.
But there is this notion of the Nightwatchers stealing things, giving things. But do we want to take a second to just think about Nightblood for a little bit?
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of questions about Nightblood.
Yeah, we have Vasher having Nightblood.
Who's Zahel? In case you forgot.
Yeah, who's Zahel?
Yeah.
And then when we first see Nightblood in the books, in the Stormlight Archive, Nail has it.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, I'll give it to you. Is that
so? How if it went through the Nightwatcher at one point? If Nail
did the
has
Nightwatcher have it at that time? Did Nail take it from the Nightwatcher?
How long has Nail had Nightblood? Has he had it since before Dalinar's visit or after Dalinar's visit to the valley? It's lots of questions. I love how Brandon can do this. He can throw in this one line that just you can obsess over.
Well,
forever.
It's also like the line in Words of Radiance. Hello, would you like to destroy some evil today? And you're like, what?
Yes.
What? Wait,
well, I think
what?
That was very obviously, look at me. I'm something you need to be talking about. This one is more subtle. It's it could very easily be glossed over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we did get the impression that Vasher did not have Nightblood for a long time, because we have his interlude and said that the voice, presumably Nightblood's voice, was a thing that he had not heard for a very long time. So surely more than the 7 years of the War of Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
Which begs the question of, how did Vasher lose Nightblood?
And did he lose it? Who did he lose it to? Did he lose it to the Nightwatcher directly?
If the Nightwatcher can just take things, what are the limits to this? Could the Nightwatcher just be like, "Oh, hey, Nail, you have that blade. I'm just gonna just take it."
Well,
and Nail just says, not again," because he's a herald. Maybe that happened to him 40 times.
With Nightblood, I don't. Because Nightblood does form sort of a bond with people. I don't think it could just be stolen like that. I'm wondering...
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we know that Vasher now has the ability to infuse Stormlight, and so he can feed off that instead of breath.
Sure.
What we don't know is whether or not just any return that shows up can start doing that, whether he had to hack something, but perhaps he had to go to the Nightwatcher, and the Nightwatcher did her thing to grant him that ability, but her price was Nightblood.
Okay.
It's possible. The other thing is, though, with the Stormfather, we see how omnipresent he is. He can appear... he's focused on the storm, but he can kind of appear anywhere, right?
Yeah, he can talk to Dalinar wherever, basically.
And, and you have the wedding scene where he's he shows himself to everyone, and he's like her whole horizon or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So the Nightwatcher seems very location focused in that you have to go to the valley to visit her. But I wonder if it's kind of a tip of the iceberg thing, and she's more omnipresent than maybe people think or realize, or she's more.
The Stormfather's special because
He's absorbed
Honor's power.
Mm-hmm.
The remains of Honor's power. That's basically what it is.
I also wonder if, like, the fact that the Stormfather is bonded to Dalinar has a difference. So, like, he can talk to his bondmate wherever, but he can't just do that with everyone. Because like they're connected to the spiritual realm.
But he does appear to everyone at the wedding, right?
Yeah, but Dalinar was also there.
It's true. Yeah.
It did seem prior to the Stormfather being bonded that the storm needed to be there for him to really do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because when Kaladin had that first vision, it was in the storm.
It was in the storm, yes.
And then
the visions
are all in the storm.
During the storm. And he can only send visions to other people through the storm.
It could just be more of a thing like the bond just gives him greater control because he has greater mental faculty, right? Because that's what the Spren are taking, right?
It's not exactly clear what the Spren... Like, they get sapience while they're in the physical realm, but they get that anyway. Okay, yeah.
There's a scene where the Stormfather kind of talks about how before he wouldn't have understood
the
something.
Recreants. No, it was about the Recreants.
Yeah. And so it kind of seems like he's taking almost like emotional intelligence or like empathy as well, like an ability to understand humans.
I just don't know whether or not that's the point of the bond or just a side effect of the bond.
Yes. This is a good question.
Well, one of the listener songs actually said that humans give something to Spren that the singers cannot give. And I always assumed it to be that emotional connection. Because that's the thing that Syl gets with Kaladin, basically. And that growth gives her that returned consciousness. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, I guess we're not sure how spread out the Nightwatcher can become, or if she is limited to be localized.
Or I wonder if she gets bonded, like she could talk to her Radiant wherever, but she would still be in.
She'd hold court at the valley or whatever.
Because did she spend all her time there in ages past when she was bonded to people? When
Probably
did she start doing the old magic thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like, how about we get through these more Nightwatcher quotes, because we're kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in that the Bondsmith Spren.
Okay.
There are 3 Bondsmith Spren, and we have kind of a quote on that implies that it's the Nightwatcher. But how about we go through these next few quotes, and we'll get back to that and get back to Nightblood, because we got to talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
So here is one quote from Interlude 7 in Way of Kings. The miners eventually tired of Took's increasingly slurred stories. They bid him farewell, ignoring his broad hints that another cup of beer would prompt him to tell his greatest tale, that of the time when he'd seen the Nightwatcher herself and stolen a sphere that glowed black at night. That tale had always discomforted Szeth, as it reminded him of the strange black sphere Gavilar had given him. Is that saying that Took stole something from the Nightwatcher?
Or did she give him a sphere like the one Gavilar had as a boon?
I think Took is just
full of crap.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure inspired by stories he's heard.
Exactly.
So I think there could be a kernel of truth here.
And so I think, deciding what the kernel of truth is could the Nightwatcher give someone? We know the black sphere likely contains
Void
whatever's
light,
been
a void
referenced,
spren.
contains something.
Yeah.
So could someone ask the Nightwatcher for that, and could she provide it?
Apparently she can just give spheres shards and nightblood, so I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting. I kind of wonder, we know some of the Unmade were trapped. What if,
oh, no.
the Nightwatcher was holding on to a sphere with one of the Unmade in it?
She's just holding on to Bide Mishram's prison, just chilling.
Or, we know, we don't know when this story came from and how many people it's been through. It could be Reshafur, it could be, any of the other Unmade who were trapped and no longer are, or who still are. So,
well,
it could be Void Light.
One thing that's interesting to me is when I was reading this in podcast prep, I thought this was the Nightwatcher stealing a thing, and I guess it's Took stealing a thing.
Yeah,
but it's kind of, I guess that's where I was getting the Nightwatcher maybe just stealing random crap from this quote, but I guess that's not really.
See, I don't think she. I think stealing goes against
cultivation.
The idea of her character. She takes things but gives things in return. Equivalent exchange. Exchange, not necessarily equivalent. We don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't think she could just take something that is owned by someone else without then giving them to something.
Or it serving a purpose of growth, it's always taking with the purpose of, because, with Dalinar, something that's always made me wonder is both things are kind of taking his memory of his wife and also taking his guilt or whatever. So, but it's with she's giving that growth, I guess, that he's able to.
She's giving the opportunity for growth.
Yeah. And we also know that's something different.
The Nightwatcher, the things that she's granting, wealth, skill, being able to swing a sword and not tire. Yeah.
They're additive.
They're additives, but they're only tangentially cultivation-y. You'll have wealth and grow that way. You will change from having wealth, right? And it causes a change in you, but it's a lot less directed, I feel, than cultivation's direct power.
Okay, I think there's an important distinction here, where that when cultivation gives a boon and a curse, it's about cultivating people. The Nightwatcher, maybe not.
But she kind of
because there's a scene where it's right after the mention of Dalinar, and it's Dalinar asks, "Tell me, can I ever be forgiven?" The Nightwatcher curled around him, agitative. "Forgiveness is no boon. What should I do to you? What should I give you? Speak it, human. And then cultivation shows up.
Right.
So it's what should I do to you?
Yeah, that really gets at what the Nightwatcher is doing. What should I do to you?
And then cultivation says that the boon is beyond what the Nightwatcher can grant. So, I see kind of the Nightwatcher as she's trying to kind of do what cultivation does, but is...
it's a poor imitation.
Yeah, or in progress, I think Nightwatcher is something that's another way she's different from the Stormfather. Is the Stormfather is kind of a complete product now that he's kind of merged with the remnants of honor.
Sure.
Whereas the Nightwatcher is still potentially being developed for some purpose.
Yeah, we do. There's a quote about that a little further on that I think we'll loop back to.
Yeah.
But do we want to read the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. The Stormfather rumbled in frustration. This is about Lift, by the way. That woman, this is a creation specifically meant to defy my will.
Woman? Dalinar asked, shaking his head.
That child is tainted by the Nightwatcher.
Technically, so am I.
This is different. This is unnatural. She goes too far. The Stormfather rumbled his discontent, refusing to speak to Dalinar further. He seemed genuinely upset. So, the Nightwatcher influenced Lift, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which we knew.
And it is interesting because it's different from what happened to Dalinar. Whereas, like, from what we've seen, Lift, Spoon, and Curse are also very weird for some reason. Like, from this reaction of the Stormfathers alone, the Nightwatcher has gone too far. But the uniqueness of Lift is different from the uniqueness of Dalinar's encounter.
Yeah.
Is what this seems to imply.
Yeah.
This also just reminds me of a sibling relationship that sister is screwing with brother's toys. So it's like,
I want things to be careful for oaths to be kept, and the Nightwatcher is just screwing this up.
And you have to wonder, how is Lift created specifically to defy the Stormfather? I kind of took that to mean, her metabolization of Stormlight.
Yeah.
Since the Stormfather gives the light with the storms.
That's probably I think true. It has more to do with her just showing up in the vision when, he did not plan for that.
Too. That's true.
We don't understand how that works.
There's a lot going on with Lift. But
yeah, I think
basically she seems to break a lot of rules that the Stormfather sets. Like,
the Stormfather is very rule-based, we can say. Yeah. He likes his rules. The Stormfather would use Oxford commas. For sure. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay, so the next quote. Lift cocked her head. Huh. You smell like her.
Her?
The crazy friend who lives in the forest.
You've met the Nightwatcher?
Yeah. You?
He nodded.
Yep. So they both met the Nightwatcher.
Yeah. And Lift can tell.
And to be fair, here Dalinar is assuming, right? Because he doesn't actually
remember.
At this point.
And this very next quote.
Yeah, but I want to talk a little bit about the fact that Lift can tell that you smell like the spread who lives in the forest. How does this relate to her being able to get into the Stormfather's visions? Because she can touch Wendell when she shouldn't be able to. So what's going on with Lift?
So let's think romantically a little bit. She's more connected to the cognitive. Maybe there's some cognitive imprints on kind of your mind or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
And also if it's sensing investiture, or if she has a kind of sixth sense about it just because of her connection to the cognitive realm, it might be easy to sense, you have some Nightwatcher cultivation-y shenanigans on you or whatever, Well,
I wonder, her metabolizing food into Stormlight, that's a connection to the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what if she's...
Yeah. Yep.
So she has a connection to both of the other realms. So that might be tied into it as well.
And you could probably do a whole podcast on Lift someday when we know more about her, but her request was something relating to not changing or not growing older. And, in the Mistborn books, Adium has the ability to grant limitless age, and that has a spiritual connection as well. So I kind of wonder, things to do with
Brandon has said that she asked for something that the Nightwatcher didn't understand. Mm-hmm. So it gave her something equally weird.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's necessarily a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the Nightwatcher doesn't understand these deep concepts. That's kind of the thing with that. I think the bond gives that the Spren can understand these nuances that
what it means to grow old and change.
Yeah, because these forces don't really understand that part of humanity. They don't really understand what forgiveness is. Like, I don't know what that means. I'm sentient power. I do what I did for however long, you know?
Like, obviously, like, they understand what forgiveness technically means, but
right, but they don't feel it.
The deeper meaning of being what being forgiven can mean.
Whereas, like, the Stormfather bonding with Dalinar, the Stormfather can feel the things Dalinar would feel and learn and understand what that means.
And go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to just talk about her being the Nightwatcher being a bondsmith's friend, so maybe we should do this next one.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is the Stormfather talking. I do not feel like men. I do not sicken like men. I am, the Stormfather rumbled. I could have been destroyed, though, splintered into 1,000 pieces. I live only because the enemy fears exposing himself to a strike from cultivation.
So she lives still then, the third god?
Yes, you've met her.
I have?
You do not remember, but normally she hides. Cowardice.
Perhaps wisdom? Dalinar said. The Nightwatcher
is not her.
Yes, you said. The Nightwatcher is like you. Are there others, though? Spren like you, or the Nightwatcher? Spren that are shadows of gods?
There is a third sibling. They are not with us. So that quote does go on. But that the Stormfather doesn't disagree that the Nightwatcher is of that class of Stormfather, right?
No, and but it is interesting that here the Stormfather seems to know that Dalinar met cultivation.
Yes.
As opposed to just the Nightwatcher.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's interesting that the Stormfather thinks that cultivation is hiding, but we do know that from Word of Brandon that she's not necessarily hiding. She has plans.
Well,
okay. I'll read it from, again, we mentioned this in last episode.
Yeah, it was last episode.
Yeah. Gavin, son Odegaard. How does cultivation figure in this conflict between Odium? Brandon, so what people assume is that cultivation is hiding. I would disagree with that. People in world would assume that. So there's something going on with cultivation.
Absolutely. I think that this is more just the Stormfather has strong opinions on many things, and couldn't really understand why knights would abandon their oaths, or maybe there was some merit to it, and you know, the Stormfather is just bitter about crap. He's bitter about a lot of things.
Yeah, he does not. Yes, he has a large chunk of Honor's investiture, but he does not understand the mind of a shard.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that does say that, all right, the Nightwatcher very likely to be a bondsmith spren. I think that's very safe to say, especially because we know there were 3 bondsmith, and there are 3 sprens of this type that the Stormfather just lists right here. The sibling presume being the third one, right? And we don't really know what that is.
It is interesting that Dalinar categorizes these spren as the shadows of gods.
Yep.
And we probably don't want to get too much into the sibling.
No, that is a podcast.
Yeah. However, it's interesting, you know, because what the Nightwatcher's relationship is to cultivation is different than the Stormfather's relationship to Honor is now. Just because of Honor being
dead.
Yes. So and this is also Dalinar talking, and he isn't super versed in the workings of the greater.
Oh, the Stormfather absolutely will just agree with what Dalinar says sometimes. So
yeah. He lets him be wrong a lot.
All the time.
And also,
totally cool
the
with that.
Stormfather doesn't really know Cosmere terminology either.
That's true.
True.
Because he refers to himself as a sliver.
Okay.
I'm still bitter about that, because...
It's interesting because we don't know how the Stormfather acted in, say, Melishi's time, right? That last bondsmith before the Recreants. Presumably that would be very different. But my question with the Nightwatcher is how... If she is a bondsmith's friend, she would have bonded humans and would have learned things. And so what's going on with that? Does she just know less because she hasn't bonded in a long time, maybe?
Well, and it's interesting because if the next quote we have, which maybe Ian can read in a second.
Oh, we will.
Is cultivation kind of mentions that meeting with people and giving them boons also helps the Nightwatcher understand people.
Okay,
and helps her grow.
So I'll read that now.
Well, yeah. We might as well just.
It's hard to keep it all separate.
It is. So cultivation shows up, and then
you must forgive my daughter, the woman said. This is the first time in centuries I've come personally to speak with one of you. Then this isn't how it happens every time? Of course not. I let her hold court here. The woman rushed her fingers through the Nightwatcher's misty hair. It helps her understand you.
That's interesting, because... so I'm getting the impression right now that the Nightwatcher has held court since the Recreants. I'm kind of getting this impression that when a Spren is no longer bonded with a human, they might regress a bit, and we've seen that with bonds weakening before. But
we've had Spren who have previously bonded Radiants, right? Who have rebonded.
Yeah. If the Radiant dies, then the Spren's not dead. It's not like they don't become dead eyes.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe the Nightwatcher would just regress after whatever her last bondsmith died. Maybe she would start to lose that capacity, maybe humans grant a capacity to Spren that they didn't have before, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
And
go ahead.
Does the holding court and giving boons and curses, does that act as kind of a stopgap measure for the Nightwatcher to maybe stop her from regressing as quickly? Or is cultivation trying to teach the Nightwatcher and develop her in a different way that we don't know or understand yet?
I think it's the second one. I don't think there's actually... It's not working in this same way as the bond would. This is more of an academic, hey, let's look at 1,000 people asking for things. Is like, do you see patterns in how people act? It's more of an academic thing, I think.
Mostly academic. I agree with that in principle, but I mean, if Lift can sense who was at the Nightwatcher, then there's some slight residue remaining, right?
Well, I'm just saying that there's nothing... Yes, there's magic stuff going on, it's just that's not impacting the Nightwatcher's capacity.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I'm with you.
And
in the same way a bond is.
Yeah. But I wonder, what if that it just takes a lot longer for Spren on the level of the Nightwatcher or the Stormfather to develop that capacity? Yeah, because there's so much invested here, you have a lot to affect, as opposed to Syl, which is a much smaller. So, Stormfather got a jump on it because he fused with Honor. And
it's hard to compare him to the Nightwatcher for that reason, his level of sentience, because we don't have what he was like before they merged.
Well, that's really interesting what you just said there, Ian, because you said, all right, they're bigger Spren, they're more powerful. so take longer. But the Stormfather got a shortcut because they fused with honor, which would really just make him more powerful. So if that was the principle in action there, then wouldn't that take longer?
I think it's because he fused with like the remnants of like Tanavast, like so there's a human element being inserted.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to.
So which gives some more sentience or some more.
But I agree with the point you were trying to make that just adding more power wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't
work.
Help, right?
There was specifically the remains of honor. There's something special there. That
it's just weird to think about what exactly that extra stuff was given to the Stormfather, because we don't have a control group to see like what the Stormfather was before.
Because Odium does make a point of when Dalinar asks him like, oh, why don't you just go? And just like, did you just say that? Like, did you, the person who controls the remains of Honor's power? So Honor's power, like, is a thing. It's not just electricity. It's not just energy. There is something about it that has an effect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. Like that bond is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
And it is...
I don't know if I would call it a bond. Like, there's...
Well, no,
there's just something special about it.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm using bond in like the jail bond term, not the Nahel bond, like the bond.
I think we need to be careful about using
the word bond.
A very like cosmically relevant term for random things.
So it's significant for Odium's imprisonment.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
What I find interesting in how things are formatted is that the Nightwatcher speaks in italics, similar to Espren or Nightblood. The Stormfather sometimes speaks in italics, but other times speaks in capital letters, which is how we see Cultivation and Odium speak.
The Stormfather generally speaks in the capital letters.
When he's not talking in Dalinar, and when he's not talking in Dalinar's head. Yeah.
Right. Like if the Stormfather is booming, that is a very interesting formatted thing.
So I wonder if whatever Brandon is showing us about the difference in those voices, if that's something that happened, like maybe before the Stormfather talked more like the Nightwatcher, but now he's talking also kind of like a Shard does because of that fusion or whatever happened.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's just get through the quotes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's tons to talk about. So let's just go through it.
Why have you come here, human? Do you not serve honor, the one you call almighty? Look unto him for forgiveness.
I asked the Ardents, Dalinar said. I didn't get what I wanted.
You got what you deserved. The truth you have crafted for yourselves.
That's such an interesting quote, because that really feels like Cultivation does not like how things have ended up at all, really. The lies of Vorinism, maybe the lies the Heralds had.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, not liking the lies is more of an honorary thing rather than Cultivation.
Well, she doesn't say she doesn't like the truth that they've crafted for themselves.
Maybe it's like stopping them from growing. Maybe that those lies are stopping them from growing to something greater because they've just lied that we won the war, and Cultivation.
There's also
you idiots.
Yeah, there's also the fact that she and Honor were romantically involved.
That's right.
Honor is dead. They're acting like, Honor's still there. It's just like,
that's true.
That like willful,
has
to be like a dagger in her heart. Like it just keeps reminding her of her love that is now gone. But I also think this
what's
is
left of her heart.
Yeah, exactly. Which actually brings me to my next point. It's like, she's the shard of cultivation. She is not the shard of compassion.
No.
Like, she is a god. Like, her opinions on things are not the same as a human.
No.
And her intent is very in line with cutting away things that cause you weakness. Right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Sure.
ignoring or getting rid of things that hurt her would be very in line with her intent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it not necessarily like cutting away,
No,
but like overcoming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have a quote on just what she's dressed like, which is very cool. This woman, she was more than he could see. Vines from her dress curled into the earth, permeating everything. In that moment, he knew that he was not seeing her, but instead a fragment with which he could interact. This woman extended into eternity.
What this reminds me of is the image of a woman like in a dress, and on her finger is a finger puppet of her, and Dalinar can only interact with the finger puppet because the whole woman is just too massive and mind-boggling to interact with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you use the puppet metaphor, because that's how I believe it's Kelsier describes Ruin when he sees him in the cognitive realm. He sees the body that's just being like held together, but is entwined with Ruin's power that extends further out. So this is very consistent with how, I guess, a representation of a shard has been described in the past.
We've all this idea of, hey, if you look into their eyes, you see this eternity. We kind of got that with Odium too.
Mm-hmm.
That this is just a face that Odium has, and there's this pure essence, that burning in him.
But Brandon has mentioned that the shards do exist across the Cosmere. Like, preservation embodies preservation across the Cosmere. Their investiture exists everywhere. Yes, their investiture is focused in places.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they can really only do stuff with a certain amount of it. And it's like, this is why you need an infinite mind to look into the spiritual realm, because it's like, there is so much there.
Sure.
That, like, yes, she does literally extend into eternity. Like, her body is here, but her tendrils reach out throughout the Cosmere. Whether or not she can actively affect things there is another matter.
Right.
Yeah. And it's interesting then talking about, we have Odium referencing this and the Stormfather talking about cultivation hiding because she's a coward. And you have references to Odium not wanting to expose himself to cultivation. Later on, Hoyd also says he thinks Odium might expose himself to cultivation if it meant he could destroy Hoyd. So it is interesting that they permeate everywhere, but when they focus, the more they focus, maybe, it does seem to make them more vulnerable to attack. Probably just because more of their power is gathered in one place, and thus it's easier to attack it. Or
I wonder if that's why Autonomy creates avatars of herself. To
destroy one aspect, then it doesn't really matter because I'm in all these other places.
Yeah.
That's my theory with Autonomy is part of it. I think there might be a lot going on there, but I do think that part of it is a survival strategy.
Yeah. It makes sense, because how would you kill an infinity sort of thing? Like, imagine if a shard is an ocean. How do you kill an ocean? You can't really do that. But if the shard grasped all that water and coalesced it in one point to do a very specific thing, you're all there. You can actually attack a thing like that.
I don't think that's a good metaphor, to be honest. Because
sorry.
I'm trying to figure out how. Because it's not like... Oh, you go ahead while I think about this.
Yeah, an attempt I would make is working off Eric's metaphor. I think it's, yes, you're gathering it, but I don't think it's necessarily gathering all of it. It's that you're gathering enough of it that you can affect the whole.
I agree.
That you can damage
I'm
enough.
with you. That was my first attempt at a metaphor, okay?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, like you can't... They can't take all of their adventure out of the Cosmere.
No. I think it's everything.
But I think it's a matter of them becoming focused enough in one location that they can be damaged enough to have big ramifications.
You're collecting all the mists from Scadrial into Vin, right?
Yeah.
That was that sort of idea of collection, not that you're grabbing all of it. But it's more manageable than the ocean that is effectively infinite. Like, I slashed my sword at it. Wow, cool. Doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter.
Unless
so you're basically taking
then maybe
the ocean.
It would do something.
You're taking the ocean. You're not taking the rivers, the streams, the lakes, the other oceans.
That part's right. Sure.
Okay. Now I like the metaphor.
Let's do the best quote for...
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
For cultivation that really gets right into what cultivation is.
Yes.
The best part.
Mm-hmm. She stepped back to him. In doing this, I provide for him a weapon. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Yet, all things must be cultivated. What I take from you will grow back eventually. This is part of the cost. It will do me well to have a part of you, even if you ultimately become his. You are always bound to come to me. I control all things that can be grown, nurtured. That includes the thorns.
Cultivation here is taking the memory of Evie, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's also referring to the fact that Dalinar is referred to as the Blackthorn.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's true.
Which, this was such a awesome moment, like kind of the payoff there with the thorn comment.
Well, I just thought that it was very nature-y. That was very cool.
Like, no, I think it's very clear that she's referring to the Blackthorn.
Yeah, but I think it's, you kind of wonder, Brandon, like, did he think of the nickname the Blackthorn specifically planning this moment with cultivation?
I mean, obviously he knew about cultivation the whole time, and Evie's death. So,
but was it a happy accident
way.
or So it's
thorn. It's a pun on the Blackthorn. Great, cool.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how cultivation says it will do me well to have a part of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, isn't that kind of weird? The way that is phrased.
Like, what benefit is she getting from having his memories of Evie? And also, these comments, like, you can really feel her through this dialogue grasping at the multiple possibilities of the future, using her future sight and kind of calculating the risk of what she's doing with Dalinar here.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's kind of, she's making Dalinar more dangerous in that she's putting him back together so he could be a better weapon for Odium later. But then she's seeing these other possibilities that she could use this to her advantage, whatever that may be. Cultivation's purposes are very mysterious.
Super mysterious.
Yes.
But
I'm only getting such a hint.
To go back to it will do me well to have a part of you. There's a very common idea in real world customs that, like, having a piece of somebody gives you power over that. And it's like we do see that a little bit in Cosmere with blood sealing in the Emperor's Soul.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Where the blood sealer is able to stamp something with Shai's blood, and that binds her.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be fresh blood.
And I guess that's the thing, is this also a kill switch for Dalinar? Like if the timeline had worked out differently and ODM had recruited Dalinar sooner, could Cultivation have suddenly released all the memories at an inopportune moment and crippled Dalinar that way?
I don't know, because it was Odium's whole point to return the memories. It's just because basically, like his plan was, return the memories, cripple Dalinar, so he turns to my side. What Cultivation was doing was returning them gradually, so he had time to accept them and
come
deal
to terms
with them.
with them. Yeah.
And she had to do
and also time without them to rebuild himself.
Yeah, and she had to start returning them at just the right time, because if she did it too early, Odium never would have attempted to sway Odium, sway Dalinar, and if she waited too late, Odium would have won.
But
the thing that I'm wondering is Cultivation is taking this memory that for some reason that's just reminding me of Preservation taking Adium from Ruin, right? And putting it in a certain thing. They're taking something from a shard. It's not like this memory is just gonna, I don't think it would just permeate in Cultivation. It's such a weird thing to take that all I can think of is, does she have all these spheres that are filled with memories of something? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's
I don't
super
think it's
weird.
This necessarily the same thing as Adium.
No, it just reminded me of that.
But the concept of kind of stealing something from another shard that they need to achieve a goal.
Or shard stealing anything. We haven't really seen a shard need something that I want to take that thing. They've just been, I'm gods.
I guess it would depend on what is the investiture that makes up Rosharan humans. Is it partially of Cultivation?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because if it's partially of Cultivation, she can take it into herself, no problem, because it's already part of her.
That is true. I mean, yeah, oh man.
Because
that question is a can of worms right there. Holy crap.
Because when Honor was alive, even though there were all of these spread, they were still Honor. The investiture in them was still Honor. It was still a part of him. It was just split off.
Right, yeah.
So it's the investiture in people's souls, that's the same thing, pretty much.
Well, okay. There has to be Honor and Cultivation innate investiture in humans on Roshar. That must be the case, because that allows them to, in order for a shard to have a magic on a planet, they have to, invest that stuff.
They have to be invested in the planet, but the Rosharans are not native to this planet.
Well, here's what I'm thinking is that, I know that is exactly what the Word of Brandon says, that they have to be invested in the planet. But I'm thinking that in order to get the magic from Preservation to be to do allomancy, you have to have that connection to Preservation. And I'm thinking with the Radiance and Surge Binding through Honor and Cultivation, basically through these spread, which are those powers, you have to have that bit in you.
But that could just be provided by the spread.
As soon as I said that, that's not correct.
World Hoppers bond spread. We see it with Hoid. Hoid bonds a spread.
But Hoid is also unique. I'm not sure if you can extrapolate to other World Hoppers.
A person who was... Well, that's interesting for several reasons. My first thing that I was going to say was Hoid's innate investiture would be from Adonalcium, but we also have a quote that said, after the shattering, all investiture was just associated with a shard.
Exactly.
So Hoid... But I would think Hoid would basically have equal-ish connection to any shard kind of thing. If you're one of those, rather than... It would be different than a native Scadrian. Hoyd would have less connection to those shards, but still have some connection to those shards, right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What were we doing? I don't know.
Cultivation.
Yeah.
Being a part of things. Okay.
But I just don't know what is cultivation just being metaphorical in taking a part of that?
And saying it will do her well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Like having a piece of his spirit web.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, where does she store that? Why is that the thing that I'm hooked up on? I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't really think that is important at all.
I don't know.
I think she's storing it so that she can give it back to him. Like, I think that's the purpose of that. What she's saying she doesn't say it'll do her well to have it for a long time. She just says it'll do me well to have a part of you. Even if you ultimately become his. So even if Dalinar becomes Odium in the end, cultivation says it will have been useful for her to possess this part of him.
The way that it's phrased, though, is very selfish. It's not, it will be good for this to be removed from you. It's cultivation saying, it will be good for me to have a part of you.
Yeah.
You see that definitely. Difference?
Yeah, yes. I agree with Eric on this.
Like, there's some benefit outside of the lack of it being in Dalinar to cultivation personally.
I think so too, but we also have to remember that cultivation's beef with Odium and her desire to thwart Odium is quite personal. So arguably things that hurt Odium do cultivation well.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, but I feel like there's something more there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, surely we are going to get a crapload of cultivation in later books.
We can hope.
Surely. It's Brandon wouldn't put 3 shards on Roshar if they all weren't super important. Whereas Odium, the Thaylen passions, it's just been permeated through the entire world building of everything. And we're just slowly getting it.
And I think the other thing about the sense I got, at least from these cultivation passages, is, like you said, she's not the Shard of Compassion. Absolutely not. She
definitely not.
Like, she is someone who I could see being both a protagonist or an antagonist in future books in the series.
It's like we've always said, back when this was Shard Keepers. Feel free to go listen to those on SoundCloud before November. We had episodes. But shards are not good.
No.
There's no shard that's pure good, that this is always good to have. Preservation is not always good to have. Cultivation, not always good to have.
And she makes it very clear, she's not doing this because Dalinar's asking for it or to help Dalinar. She is carefully scanning the future and calculating what her purposes are and doing what she needs to do to bring her goals about, whatever they happen to be.
Yeah, like, honor's not always good. Don't always keep your oaths. That's not always good to be in eternal life bonds for thousands of years. Don't do that.
Yeah, as Frost puts it in about Odium, like, he is God's own divine hatred separated from the virtues that gave it context. That's the same applies to all of the shards. Like, you need the balance.
Cultivation is not getting and none of them are. Right. Exactly. Which just goes to show, when we talk about endowment some more, a follow-up on the letters. Endowment,
Yeah.
not always good. Same sort of thing.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering, like, devotion being so zealously devoted to a thing, losing sight of other important things, maybe? I don't know.
The Nightwatcher giving the Nightblood to Dalinar, that's a very endowment-y thing to do.
It really is.
That's
really
not a good
is.
thing. Very much not a good thing.
Yeah.
It is, you know? Okay, alright. The thing I am about to say is dumb, guys, okay?
Okay.
But we know Nightblood. Well, there is an implication that there was some mixing of investitures in Nightblood, and there is some extra stuff with Nightblood. This is just reminding me, the Nightwatcher, it's like giving things, endowing things, and there's a relationship there. And maybe there was some Nightwatchery cultivation influence in specifically Nightblood that would maybe allow the Nightwatcher to just get Nightblood whenever she wants. Or cultivation to do that. Cultivation is very planny. I don't know. Maybe this is just cultivation and endowment. Hey, yo, we gotta... Odium, kind of being a problem. Endowment. Yo, let's do something about this. And they planned a thing together in creation of Nightblood.
I feel like, based on the personality we saw in the letters, Endowment would not be okay with that. She's like...
Because it would require her to collaborate with another shard.
Just like, she'd be like, go back to your own planet and leave me alone.
But also, Endowment is also saying, if Odium's a problem, we're going to deal with that.
Which implies that at this point in time, she doesn't feel he is.
Well, we don't know how contemporary those letters are. They feel pretty contemporary, but I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's
I guess
post
Nightblood was
Nightblood.
centuries ago. Yeah. I don't know, but the point is, we need a Nightblood 2.0 podcast.
Yeah,
we need to talk about Nightblood some more, because there's another weird sword in this book too.
So there's one more quote.
Oh yeah,
I think
we're not done with quotes. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A boon and a curse, the mother said. That is how it is done. I just want to know, is there a hardwired mechanical reason for that? Or is that just because this is how it has always been done, so that's how we're going to do it?
Well, and is that part of her intent, right? Because... Like, she's not endowment.
I would say... sure, okay, that's an interesting point, Matt. I was more thinking, I don't think it is cultivation just doing it because it's how things have always been done. Because that is an honor thing. Where we have these traditions, we're going to keep doing these traditions, because that we said we would do that, so we're going to do that.
Cultivation, it would be more of an innovator, presumably.
Sure. So I think there could be some I think there is a mechanical reason for why that needs to be the case.
There's also the question of how old is the old magic? Like, it's older than surge binding, but is it older than the shards?
Do we know? I guess it's called the old magic, so I guess it's older than that. But
like, was this set up by Aiden Alzia when he created Roshar? Because the Stormfather existed before the shards showed up. Did the Nightwatcher?
Sure.
So
all right.
Did cultivation co-opt
the Nightwatcher?
Or something, or
I don't
something
think
that was like the Nightwatcher?
I think it's more that when the Shadowing happened, whatever proto-Nightwatcher there was automatically became of cultivation.
Or she might have copied and replaced it. Could be another possibility. Like,
maybe
made something like it.
So here is my question. If the old magic is older than surge binding, that totally destroys exactly what I said earlier, where the Nightwatcher has at least been in the valley since the Recreants. When the Nightwatcher bonded with Radiance. Was she still like granting boons and curses? That seems really weird, right?
I don't think that's any more weird than the Stormfather being in the storms.
Like, yeah, they keep... Well, and the other thing is, we don't know if she, like... Maybe she kept doing it as well and was just connected, or maybe she, takes brief holidays from granting boons and curses to... Because in the Nightwatcher's reckoning, bonding a human would be very brief.
That's
compared
true.
to
I guess
the amount
so.
of time.
And until the humans all took down their oaths, then the Nightwatcher just says, "Yeah, well, let's not do that anymore."
Yeah.
But she'd already stopped bonding at that point anyway, so...
Yeah, true. But then you're not going to reconsider to bond the humans.
No, definitely not.
After that. So, yeah, man, that is super weird. Older than surge binding.
Well...
If we're just taking the word old magic seriously here, right?
Well, I mean, like, older than surge binding with Spren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Roshar,
older than the Spren mimicking the heralds in those specific ways, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're referring to. Because people did influence surges before.
Yeah, like on Ashen. So.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy then.
Like, it is... Old magic is also what humans call it.
Yeah,
too.
I don't know how serious we can call this.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting, though.
I feel like they would call
well
it the
just
old magic because it's the magic that was here before surge binding. I think that's a reasonable thing for people to call it.
I mean, I agree with that, but that could also just be a consequence of humans post-recreance not knowing what the crap's going on. They have no idea what's really going on.
Yeah, but like I don't see why they would call it the old magic if they didn't know it was older.
Because they think it's older.
Maybe.
It's old in that it is old magic that they can actually obtain, unlike Radiance, which was not really a thing anyone could obtain for the last 2,000 years. I don't really know. I think all those are possibilities. This one, we're kind of bringing up questions for people rather than having answers, because we don't really have answers.
Another timing question I have is Cultivation says that this is the first time in centuries she's come to personally speak with someone, like one of the supplicants of the Night Mother. You have to wonder who... So she has appeared to people before,
yes,
personally. Who and
which is
why.
Interesting, in fact.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Shards manifesting is a very interesting topic.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially Odium seems to be... Compared to the shards we've seen, Odium seems to be a little overly
Hands-on.
zealous in his manifestations. He kind of just seems to appear all over the place. Whereas Cultivation seems to be more careful about when and to who she is appearing.
Well, that's also probably because Odium's the dude in charge, that Odium can get away with a lot. But I think we should table Shards manifesting to another podcast, because that is a thing that I have a lot of opinions on, and it's very interesting to hear about.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that the valley is really near Irithiru. Really close, geographically.
And you know that there's that other entrance through the tunnels to Irithiru?
Yep.
Yeah. So...
That's interesting, because the valley is a place that is very close to cultivation.
Yeah,
and there's
right, exactly.
an epigraph in Way of Kings that, although trying to remember. Although people wanted it to be built in Alethela,
Lefala, yeah.
it was your theory was to be built in the west, in the place closest to Honor.
Right.
Which we thought was his perpendicularity, but his perpendicularity moves, so...
Has it always moved, though?
I feel like that's a pretty consistent thing. I don't think that is something that would change, necessarily.
Right, a shard dying? Well, I guess devotion died. It didn't really change anything.
Yeah.
So,
But
alright, yeah, that's fine.
Speaking, though, of perpendicularities, it is interesting that cultivation has this obvious focus in the valley, but that's not where her perpendicularity is.
Well,
so it's interesting how she, I think that's probably intentional that she keeps the Nightwatcher in a different place than she keeps her perpendicularity.
Well, so what I would say to that is that the location of the perpendicularity is not the focus of where the shard's mind is at all.
No, I know that's true. Yes, but
so
it's often...
we don't really have a good. We don't really know why perpendicularities are where they are in particular.
Yeah, it has to do with spiritual humidity is the term Brandon used. That just like how water collects in certain places, investiture collects in certain places as well. But that's starting to get into realmatics that we just do not understand.
Well, it's also weird because under the pits was Ruin's perpendicularity, right?
Yeah.
And...
Or the pits, essentially. There were a bunch of tiny pits. Yeah.
Sure, right, yeah, right.
Tiny pools.
But preservation basically put the pits there to grow the adium, so Ruin couldn't have it.
Or, this is a...
Because it was a not a natural coalescence or something. Like,
but did preservation make that, or did the Lord Ruler make that? Because we see the black pool. We see the black pool though in the flashbacks. Though we see a black pool without the pits.
Yeah.
This is a box of worms.
I feel
the point is where perpendicularities are is weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have things to say about that, but we should.
Yeah, no, you can go say it. Yeah.
Okay, because what I think is that preservation was taking advantage of the naturally existing perpendicularity, applying pressure to Ruin, and that resulted in Atium starting to form near because that's where his investitures coalesced the most.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah. So how long has the valley existed then? So the cultivation's perpendicularity wouldn't necessarily be the place closest to cultivation in the context of that epigraph, right?
No.
And now we basically say the valley. So how long has the valley existed, do you think?
My guess, as long as Roshar has existed.
You think? Because that epigraph is making me think otherwise, that maybe the valley did not always exist there. The Nightwatcher could have existed, but not this construction of the valley, necessarily.
Yeah.
And that was created perhaps after Honor either withdrew or was killed? Is that what you're thinking?
Maybe.
Like it was once more of Honor, and now cultivation has kind of claimed the area.
I mean, so little of Old Roshar. The Silver Kingdoms were after the last Desolation. We didn't really
Well, they were contemporaneous with the last Desolation. They existed before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's true. That's true. But entire nations would be wiped out in Desolations. So
in early Desolations, like the Silver Kingdoms were a
later thing.
Yeah, after they had the Radiance and things were developing.
Yeah, because the nations that were destroyed were actually pre-Radiance, yeah. the thing we get in the Nohadon vision. Yeah, go ahead.
What I find interesting about the Valley is how there's some non-physical realm stuff that seems to be going on too when Dalinar gets there, right? Like, it seems to be messing with his perception.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that could just be the Nightwatcher screwing with him.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if, like, part of that is because, we've seen places where Shard's power congregates or is used, the realms get closer together. And so I wonder if it's not a perpendicularity in that you can move between the realms in the Valley, but it's so invested that they're close.
Yeah,
like they're not like to quite together.
There's a
yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Well, also just a huge amount of a Shard's investiture just makes things kind of weird. Like mists are kind of weird.
Yeah, but
and
this
they do
makes
kind of weird things. I don't know.
Like when the realms are rebounding apart in the final sequence, we see Yasna is able to soul cast much easier, and Shallan is also able to light weave at a higher level because the realms are still close even as they're rebounding. I kind of wonder if...
Was that the implication you got? I don't know if that's explicitly an actual thing.
I thought that's what Yasna... I thought Yasna said that.
Did
specifically.
Yasna say that? I don't remember.
She says something about it being disconcerting, about her being able to look into the cognitive realm without trying, because the barrier is so weak between the realms at that point.
Okay, okay.
So I'm not sure if soul casting would be easier at the Valley. I'm just wondering if some of the magic systems that have a more cognitive element might behave differently or weirdly in the Valley. It would be interesting to see if the Valley has an effect on surge binding or certain surges.
Maybe. There's also the fact that all investiture interferes with other investiture.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Except when it doesn't. Like Adium. Yeah. So I had a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Reshafir is in the bowels of Ryutharu, in presumably those tunnels right now, right?
I think she left. I think she exited the tunnels.
But if the tunnels exit in the Valley or close to the Valley...
near the Valley, what would happen if Reshafir just walks into the Valley? Can Voidspren go into the Valley? Would Odium think the Valley is an important strategic place to go? Would Fused just go there? What would happen? What?
I don't think Odium would strike at the Valley himself, for the same reason he doesn't just smash Urithiru. That opens himself to
a big attack from
cultivation. Big attack, especially when you're attacking a center of her power.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Voidspren could go into the Valley. The Nightwatcher probably wouldn't take too kindly to that and kill them.
But you describing the Nightwatcher as an eldritch horror, just like we described the Unmade. I kind of want to see the Nightwatcher fight an Unmade somehow. That would be cool, because the Nightwatcher's super weird.
Yeah.
It's
fundamentally unfair, because the Nightwatcher is sapient, Reshafir is not.
Mm-hmm. Although both of them are learning as well, right? Yeah. Like you see, like Reshafir is not sentient in the way Sia Anat is sentient.
Right.
But I think you could argue that Reshafir does have more kind of almost, it's perhaps an animal intelligence, but more intelligence than the Thrill. Or
yeah, absolutely.
But I don't necessarily know that she's changing as more than that. That's just how she is.
Although you do, like, in the past, we never see her impersonating. This is maybe getting off topic, but in the past, we don't see her impersonating humans. And now in the present, all of a sudden, she's impersonating humans instead of white spines or...
Well, we don't know the extent of what Midnight Essence could do.
Yes.
She might just be understanding her power more. As much as she can understand it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do kind of want to see not Odium attack the valley, but just some fused walk to the valley and just get horribly wrecked. That would be very amusing.
Yeah, and I think that's what, when we had been talking previously, I think would be interesting is I don't think Odium would obviously go himself because he'd be exposing himself, right? And maybe he wouldn't even be able to, because Cultivation's power might kind of repel him, but it would be interesting if he sent... And how... If there is something blocking or protecting the valley from other concentrations of investiture, how powerful does someone have to be before that block kicks in, right? Would he have to go down to the fused if he can't send an unmade, So or would he need to send, just regular humans or listeners?
I feel like Dalinar could still walk into the valley. Right now, post Oathbringer.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why he couldn't. I don't see any reason why a fused couldn't.
By a Radiant couldn't. Yeah. No, that's true.
If you're a Radiant, you probably would just... The Nightwatcher might just be, I'm just not gonna come over to visit you at all. I'm just not gonna do that.
Yeah. But that, I don't think there's some force field protecting the...
No.
It's just that he wouldn't go there.
Well, there could be protections kind of like the protections on Urithiru. That's just what that reminded me of. But that's kind of vague what that means.
And I was thinking less of solid force field and more ruin and preservation block each other. So I feel and I know they're opposed, but if Odium tries to go somewhere where cultivation is too strongly, there might be a kind of a block.
See,
I
don't think so, because it's not like ruin and preservation were repelled from each other. It's that if they got next to each other, they destroyed each other.
No, what Matt's talking about is when Vin tried to act, Ruin would block that action, that kind of thing. Not the them annihilating each other.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a passive thing.
No, I don't think that's a passive thing either.
So I don't see that as any different than cultivation thwarting, attacking Odium, if he shows up.
Yeah. No, that's...
Do you think the fused would just know, yep, that's where cultivation stuff is, let's just not go there?
Pretty much.
They've existed for...
they know who cultivation
forever.
is.
Yeah.
The one other, I guess, kind of speculative scene I'd be interested to see is we have this promise set up for us that there can be 3 bondsmiths. And we've seen now with Dalinar that at least his sort of bondsmith can be very useful to Team Radiant. So I kind of wonder, at some point, are they going to be trying to get other bondsmiths in position to bond the Nightwatcher and the sibling? And if so, will the forces of Odium be trying to prevent those bonds from occurring? And if that might be one of the conflicts of the future books?
I think that's a really good point, because there's no way Brandon's seeding this foreshadowing of the sibling if that doesn't matter eventually. That will matter. That's super important.
And it seems to me that Odium would want to prevent more bondsmiths from being created.
I think that is a very safe bet.
Yeah.
So maybe you just have fused just blocking others from entering the valley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see
they are with the perpendicularity.
Yeah, right.
The other question that we probably don't have an answer to, I think, is, what purpose is cultivation grooming the Nightwatcher for?
Well, we know that before his death, Honor was grooming the Stormfather as a replacement. She might be hedging her bets in case I might not make it out of this. I need to make sure there is someone who can take over for me.
I mean, surely cultivation would have contingency plans because you literally saw Honor get killed, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
From the Arcanum Unbounded Chicago signing, between First Selector and Brandon. Yeah, and talking about, cultivation is still around, and First Selector, and she can probably know how not to turn her back to the Brandon Cutzamum. Well, I mean, she has learned from the experiences of others.
Yeah.
So she's not going to make the same mistakes that Honor made.
No.
Definitely
and she might not have made them anyway because she
is not an idiot.
Well, and is just, more equipped perhaps to anticipate attacks and outsmart Odium.
More equipped to anticipate sounds a lot like what cultivation would be able to do. Anticipate anything, really.
Yeah.
As opposed to Honor, who expected the Oath Pact to solve the problem for all of eternity.
Yeah, that's true. So any last thoughts on cultivation and Nightwatcher? Maybe what do you expect to see of cultivation in the future? As we wrap up.
I feel like we're not going to see cultivation herself for a good while.
Maybe back half.
Maybe back half. Maybe book 5, probably back half. He just dropped this on us and is just like, nope, not going to talk about that for a while.
Well, it was also just relevant to Dalinar and Dalinar's arc, which was the only reason why we had to see it.
True.
And he also dropped it in a flashback. Like, I think he might hold on to speculation on what cultivation is and is up to or is located in the present day. I think that's a secret that he'll hold on to for a little
I
longer.
think that's all Raffo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask that, you will get Raffoed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I certainly want to see a lot more cultivation, because cultivation was awesome. That was so cool. So cool. Just seeing a shard in, as well as you can see a shard in person, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
See the direct manifestation of a shard and talking to it is so awesome. The best.
Yeah. And I think cultivation will maybe see more hints about, maybe she's involved with that. We might start to recognize her manipulations, but seeing her directly is maybe something that we'll wait.
I mean, we're not going to see nearly as much Odium directly in the next book, I don't think, because
he's not showing up to
confront Dalinar.
He's not chatting with Dalinar anytime soon.
We'll probably maybe see him on during some of the, if we get more Teravangian interludes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or where we could see Odium a lot more is just Venli, because we're gonna probably get Venli as the main character, right? So we're gonna get a crap load of Odium, really, just through the singer side of things.
Mm-hmm. And she's gonna have to keep the secret that she's bonded to a Nihil's friend.
Yeah. I think a book where we will see more of cultivation, either in the present or in flashbacks, is Lift's book in the back 5.
Yeah, definitely. Surely.
Like, I think that's a point. If Brandon is saving some cultivation-y stuff, he might save it for then.
Who knows how much he's saving? I'm going to go with all the things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening to this long podcast. 90-minute episodes are a fleeting dream in our imagination. Maybe we'll get there. But there's so much to talk about with Oathbringer, so hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you follow 17 Shard on Facebook, Twitter, sub to our YouTube channel, follow our SoundCloud.
Join our Discord.
Join our Discord. You can chat with us personally if you want, anytime.
Tell us how we're wrong.
You can just ping us. Yeah, I mean, you can tell us wrong. Comment below, all the things. And we have lots for us to do in 2018. Thanks for listening to our podcast since Oathbringer came out. It's just blown us away how much you guys have. So with that, we'll see you next week with something. I don't know. We have a long list. We'll do a lot of stuff. So see you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.
Caw.